So the Clemson Tigers going into 2021 are going to be a very scary team. Last year, I had Clemson as the team that I thought was going to win the national championship. I thought, well, with all the experience that was coming back on the offensive side of the ball, they were going to play with the chip on their shoulder. They were playing in the ACC, so a lot of those games were pretty much just going to be warm-up games for them. They probably were, every year Clemson has a game that they struggle that they probably shouldn't even struggle. They do it every year. Boston College was the one team that Clemson should have destroyed. That Boston College just they just opposed a threat to the Clemson Tigers. It happens every year for them. Sometimes they lose those games. Sometimes they win. But the point is that they always bounce back. Whatever the result is, they always bounce back and they become a much better team after that kind of that wake up call. They ended up going to the playoffs. Well, they ended up losing to Notre Dame. So they was in obviously you lose your best players to COVID, including Trevor Lawrence. You lose to Notre Dame in a very very close overtime game, really really good game. But then you get your rematch against Notre Dame. You destroy them. You ended up going to the college football playoffs, and then you ended up getting absolutely dismantled by the Ohio State Buckeyes in a result that I didn't see that one coming. I thought it was going to be Clemson versus Alabama for the national championship in a rematch back for the 2018 title. Didn't come into fruition, and obviously we're at this point now where once again Clemson is going to have maybe even higher expectations because Clemson probably is going to no Clemson is the favorite to win the national championship this year because if you look at this roster and then you look at their ACC schedule once again, I mean Clemson should be the favorites, and I'm honestly contemplating of maybe giving Clemson once again my giving Clemson as far as the result for them to win the national title. I might just go with Clemson once again to win the national championship going into 2021. But looking at this roster, it is not fair that they return every single defensive starter from last year. Every single defensive starter that we saw from last year is back. Brian Brzee, Miles Murphy, Tyler Davis, who, by the way, Tyler Davis, in my opinion, I think is their best defensive player. I think the problem for Tyler Davis is that he wasn't healthy. He wasn't healthy. He had a dominant 2019 campaign, wasn't really healthy, fought with COVID, had lingering injuries. But, again, Tyler Davis, you really pair him once again with him there. I'm Braylon Spector, KJ Henry, Xavier Thomas, another player that we saw flashes, especially back when he did in 2019, where I think he had around 4.5, maybe 6 sacks, but really wasn't healthy for 2020. Also battled with COVID. Again, looking at Braylon Spector, James Skelski, Nolan Turner, Malcolm Green, who else? I mean, there's so many other players. I mean, Andrew Booth Jr., who we saw some flashes here and there. Darian Kendrick, I would say, is the one guy that's gone. He got dismissed by the team, had some trouble. Obviously, is now dismissed from the football team there. Mike Jones transferred to LSU. But Clemson is absolutely loaded. I mean, Trenton Simpson Jr. can easily fill in the role that Mike Jones did there. So Clemson is absolutely loaded. Again, you return almost every single starter except for those guys that I just mentioned. Obviously, either were transferred or they were dismissed for the football team. Hopefully, Darian Kendrick, hopefully that issue can be resolved. Again, I don't really know the serious of that issue, but if the issue can be resolved and he can get back on the team, he's probably the best corner on that team. So we'll see what happens when it comes to that situation. But offensively, again, I mean they're still loaded. I mean, you do lose guys like Jackson Carman, you lose Trevor Lawrence, Powell, and then obviously Travis Etienne. And I think the quarterback position with DJ Uyunglele, I think DJ can be better than Trevor Lawrence. I think he's actually more talented than Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is a big quarterback at 6'6", around 225 pounds, has the mobility, and again, he's a once-in-generational prospect. But then again, you have a kid in DJ Uyunglele who's more of a Big Ben Roethlisberger quarterback. He's 6'5", 260 pounds of full-grown manliness. And again, he was a freshman. He's only going to continue to get bigger and he's not even done filling out his frame. He could be 270 pounds by the time he's done, by the time he's in the NFL, and he might lose some of that weight. But good God, he's not even done filling out his frame. The kid is 19 years old. I mean, this kid is a baller. I think he has a much stronger arm than Trevor Lawrence. Again, you have two, kind of top 10 top 1 overall prospects, and Trevor Lawrence and DJ Uiagalelei back to back. That's huge for the Clemson Tigers, so they're fine in the quarterback position. The running back position is where I am going to be. That's a big loss in, because Travis Etienne has been the lifeline for the Clemson Tigers over the last 3 to 4 years. You now lose him. I like L.J. Dixon, but L.J. Dixon's not Travis Etienne. He's a Dixon's a guy. He's an all-purpose guy. Again, you can catch the ball at the backfield. He's a pretty good runner, but he's not Travis Etienne. You guys know what I'm saying? He's not that guy. So Will Shipley, a guy that he was the number one all-purpose back. Will Shipley is going to be a true freshman. Now, we've seen true freshmen that can come in and ball. Can Will Shipley be that Travis Etienne, C.J. Spiller, Wayne Gallman type of back? We'll see. But I don't know. I think L.J. Dixon's a fine back, especially, again, you're running behind a really good offensive line that's returning four out of the 5 starters. I'm just not sure. I mean, Travis Etienne has been the lifeline of that team for the last 3 to 4 years. I just don't know if L.J. Dixon could be that guy. But yeah, the wide receivers, Frank Lawson, Justin Ross is returning back from injury. That's a big game for the Clemson Tigers. Ajoy is a guy is expected to step up there as well. You look at guys like E.J. Williams. He showed flashes last year of what he can definitely be as far as as far as potentially being maybe a number 1 guy. Powell was the guy because again, he had to fill out for Justin Ross. So we'll find out what happens at the receiver position. They're going to be battling out to see who maybe could be the number 1 guy. But the point is that Clemson's going to be absolutely loaded. You also add in guys like Bo Collins and Tony Stiletto from Cardinal Gibbons, and I like Tony Stiletto. I think Tony Stiletto is going to be that next. I think he's going to be more of a slot receiver. He's going to be more of a Hunter Renfrow guy, but a guy that I think he has more talent there, a guy that can fill out as far as his frame and might push to being an outside receiver. So, I mean, the point is, Clemson's absolutely loaded at the receiving position as well. The offensive line, again, Will Putnam, Will Putnam. You do lose Jackson Carman, but you also return, again, 4 out of the 5 starters. They're absolutely loaded there. And then Trishan Lay, right? Trishan Lay is a guy that's a 5-star offensive tackle. Is he a guy that's going to come in there and he's going to be battling for the left tackle position? Are you going to, or is Walker Parks, and I like Walker Parks, is Walker Parks going to be a guy that can maybe keep that left tackle position? Again, Trishan Lay is going to be a guy that's going to be coming in during the summer. He's not an early enrollee, but a guy that has a lot of talent. Really big guy, athletic as all hell. We'll see what Trishan Lay can do. Again, we saw Will Putnam put in some work as a true freshman. We'll see what Trishan Lay can do once he decides to come in. Again, defensively, I mean, Barrett Carter, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who was a phenomenal running back, playing for from St. Joseph's Prep in New Jersey. I think Jeremiah Trotter is going to come in, and I think he's going to be playing a lot of football. He's going to be more of a rotational piece with Skalski and Inspector, whatever if you want to put him at the mic or you want to put him at the will. But Jeremiah Trotter is a guy that has phenomenal instincts, just like his dad when he played with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, the Clemson Tigers, I mean, you can make an argument this is the most loaded roster in college football. Alabama might be the most talented. Alabama, Ohio State, they might be the most talented. LSU, the Georgias. But Clemson is loaded with a mixture of talent and experience on both sides of the ball. They're also pretty good on special teams as well, even though I'm not really going to count special teams as that much of a huge factor, just because the amount of experience and talent that they got on the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball. Then you have to factor in the schedule. I mean, yes, you do play Georgia. That Georgia game, that first game, that is going to be a game of the year, type of hypeness. I'm not saying that, Clemson can blow out Georgia, and then we can say, hey, well, Georgia kind of sucks. But as far as the hypeness the hype going into that game, it's going to be one of the most hyped games, if not the most hyped game of the year. But if Clemson can easily get past Georgia, no one's stopping them. Because I don't, Miami, North Carolina, I mean, yes, those are the only 2 teams that talent-wise can match up with Clemson. But Clemson is just too good. I mean, with Brent Venables and Dabo Swinney, and they return all of their coaches, I think, once again, or at least their major coaches. It's just a mixture of, again, talent, experience. I don't see it. I don't see an Alabama caliber team losing to a bunch of Arkansas, Ole Miss teams. I don't see that happening. I like North Carolina. I like Miami going into this year, but I don't see anybody else beating them. Like always, Clemson will probably struggle with that one team. They will struggle against one team this year that they should never struggle with. But once that happens, Clemson will get better, and they'll continue to just absolutely just throttle the ACC conference and easily get to the college football playoffs. I think the biggest question is that if they do make it to the college football playoffs, and if they do again, what's going to happen there? Because I didn't expect Ohio State to dismantle Clemson, and it was kind of back-to-back years now where they struggled against LSU and they struggled against Ohio State, these high-powered type of offenses. So Alabama obviously is loaded. I think Georgia will continue to be better. I wouldn't be surprised at all if, we have these come-from-behind teams like, again, LSU. I think that's a major dark horse. Oklahoma is going to be hyped as far as their offense and their defense having a combination of both those things. And we always say if Oklahoma can have a defense, there's no stopping Oklahoma. Now they have both those things. So I think that this year, as far as elite caliber teams going into the college football playoffs, it's going to be more of a challenge for Clemson to overthrow. As far as Clemson to try to get past those teams. But as far as ACC competition, Clemson's absolutely loaded. They're going to be a monster. They're going to the college football playoffs. This is going to be one of those teams. Clemson is one of those teams where everyone knows they're in it. Alabama can get in there, but the SEC's tough. The Big Ten, I think, will get tough. The Big 12, I think, is going to get a little bit more competitive for Oklahoma. Clemson, we all know, is getting in. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Clemson Tigers do if they can get in there. But with all the experience and talent that's coming back, Clemson could very well once again be the favorites, not only to get in not only to win the national championship. They are going to be the favorites to go to winning the national championship going into the 2021 fall season.